Okay, good afternoon, everybody. I'm going to bring some people into the webinar real quick. So just hold tight for real quick, and we'll bring our Board of Director Berman as well into this meeting. And okay, good afternoon, everybody. I'm going to bring some people into the webinar real quick. So just hold tight for real quick, and we'll bring our Board of Director Berman as well into this. Did you hear that?
Yeah.
That's not. Okay. Okay.
Mike, can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can. Yes.
Are you ready to rock and roll?
We are ready. We can go forward.
Okay, can you hear me, Mike?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I call the meeting to order. This is the up-to-date buildings and facilities board committee meeting, March 1st. I'll start with a roll call. Mike Ware.
Present.
John Simpson.
Present.
Andy Mott. Greg Kelly.
Not here today.
Julie Theander.
Here.
And Debbie McKay.
I'm here.
Okay. I'll start off by reading our mission, vision, values statement here. Our mission is to equip every student with the knowledge and the skills necessary to be resourceful and successful. Our vision in 2030, the Estacada School District, backed by a strong collaborative organizational culture, leads the state of Oregon in graduation rates and student success, building on a foundation of fully engaged community and families, up-to-date buildings and facilities, and sustainable finances accountability. Sorry. Estacada schools are the focal point of community pride and achievement. Our values are inspire, engage, and achieve. So on to item C, an update for me. Mike, thanks for sharing that prelim set of notes and the contracts to date. You know, that's helpful information to look at. So I suspect you'll be walking us through that a little more today.
Yes.
So that's all I have for an update. Thanks for sending that in advance, and I look forward to hearing about it.
Great.
Superintendent Carpenter.
I just want to quickly say thank you to Director Berman for his great leadership on this. I'm excited about this committee today because I think we're going to have the opportunity to see some tremendous growth even from the last 30 days of the actions that have occurred, as well as the data that we get to share. And again, just a reminder for this committee and the public who may or may not watch this live or later on, that the purpose of this committee meeting really is to hold ourselves accountable as we strive to successfully achieve our goals in the strategic plan. So the community put these goals together for us. And so this is our conversation tonight about our progress towards meeting those goals in the strategic plan. So great opportunity for us to remind ourselves of that. But thank you again, Director Berman, and that's the superintendent's report this evening.
Okay, Mike, over to you.
All right. Okay, so again, I wanted to just start off with what our goal is in this specific pillar, which is to score a 3.90 on the My School is Clean question on the student engagement survey. So our focus is cleanliness and safety as you look at both intertwined at our schools and within our district. Each of one of our district leaders have a strategic action that support this goal, whether it relies on communication or different tactics to improve cleanliness, or different systems to improve, or communicating the collaboration between interdepartments. Before we get into some of the improvement in actions and barriers, I wanted to open it up to the group on any wins that they've experienced over the last 30 days. So I have a couple, but I'll wait until we go around the horn if there are any wins related to this specific pillar.
I have a win. We had great ion readings today on our updated HVAC systems that we did. Every unit I checked was somewhere between 470 and 3,000 ions, and I measured positive and negative. As soon as I get a little more familiar with the machine that we have, I'm excited to start kind of logging that data, but every unit I went to had great readings today. So
Great. Thank you, John.
Hey, John, real quick, can you tell me what a good range is of ions or not, or what 470 to 3,000 means?
yeah, any ions is great, but when I was measuring, and I'm going to be honest, I'm still researching everything. That's why I'm not quite ready to start logging the data. So this ionization is really new, not just us, but to Oregon. And we're one of a few school districts that have kind of dove all in, but non-treated areas have anywhere between 30 and 70 natural ions, positive and negative. Every classroom I went into had at least 400, and some of them had, up to 17 or 1,800. So we're getting 10, 20, 30 times more air filtration and ions into each room. And as I do more research and get a little more familiar with it, Joe, I'll be happy to answer more questions and kind of share more data. But today was the first day that we actually broke out that machine and started using it.
Thanks, John.
I would like to celebrate for a win the grounds and maintenance team. We experienced a very significant ice storm last week that had a lot of trees and branches and debris down on our school district campus, and our grounds and facilities team aggressively worked hard to clean up all of those pieces of debris to make our schools look open, welcoming, and like it didn't even happen. And so just a great job. What a tremendous win for that team to respond quickly and make our schools operational again and safe. So thank you.
Thank you. What was nice is everything was willing. I didn't have to call anybody and beg them. People were calling me saying, hey, what can we do to help? We know we need help. So all I can say is Andy was a superstar. Scott was amazing. And for the most part, I was landlocked with trees and power issues, but thank you. I'll pass it on to them. They're a great team. We're lucky to have everyone.
Greg, I know you joined us a little late. We're just talking about any wins from the last 30 days that applies to this pillar. I have a couple. One that we have really started communicating more out to the public and within our district on costs or expenditures that are related to capital improvement projects. And in January, our second video that we shot to shoot out to the community got 166 views. And again, this is our kind of first try doing this and taking some lead from Superintendent Carpenter on how we communicate to our community. So we are committed to doing a video each month, highlighting capital expenditures and expenditures related to the improvement of our facilities, our grounds, and our infrastructure of the district. One other win I'd like to share is, I want to share my screen, is our air balancing report. Can you all see my screen okay? Mm-hmm. So we completed an air balance report, air balance assessment of our district over the last month. This was in lieu of our, tied into our ionization and DVC project. It may be a little hard to see. I'll kind of blow this up, but you can see these are the air exchanges per hour in our rooms at the EMS at the middle school here. So you can see it ranges from a 5 to a 13.28 exchanges per hour. There's a couple rooms that are in the lower, but this is great foundational data for us to start making some adjustments, whether we need to bring it down, although we may not want to bring it down during a pandemic. But obviously those low liners of the 1.29, 1.4, we want to look at how we can increase that air circulation to between a 2 and 6 at this time. Kind of like the ionization, we're still investigating what's the proper air circulation per hour. We're looking at a shear, and other evidence-based research to help support what we want to move our circulation to. At CRE, again, you can see a wide range, but for the most part, between 6 and 2 is the cycles per hour. A couple areas in our boys supply and girls supply room are up to 18 to 16 per hour. And so again, good data that we can see here at the high school. Again, ranging from that 6 to upper 7s to a couple 10s, and then some lower levels that we need to make some tweaks to. And this data will be posted on the COVID-19 resource website, as well as the operations department website, as we go through and then start checking this on a more frequent basis when we're able to. And then here's River Mill Elementary. Again, these are all in really good standing. Again, you think about, in a classroom that is moving six times an hour air through that room, when we have children in there and staff, I think that's a great win to highlight. So wanted to just make sure I shared that data out to everybody.
Mike, excellent data, just being able to share that. So if a classroom teacher is concerned or wants to know about how much airflow is actually coming through there, we can literally pinpoint how much air is being exchanged per hour for their classroom. That's excellent.
We're really excited. I mean, it was an important piece to what we're doing for air quality, and just being able to have that information, as we know that it's a common topic or common question. So,
Mike, what would the baseline be? If 6 is a good number, what's a normal number?
John, is it 2? Is it required 2 per hour?
Yeah, 2 air exchanges per hour is kind of so it's kind of weird. The minimum is 10% outside air at all times. But yeah, the average is, like Mike said, between 1.5 and 2.
And Director Berman, our Gladstone School District just completed this air balancing assessment as well, and with the same company. And I'm bringing that up because they moved everything up to 6 air cycles, air exchanges per hour. And I don't know why. So I reached out to Gladstone to see what was their process of determining that number, what research data supports it, and waiting for a return communication on that.
Thanks.
Yeah. Any other wins?
I did have one today after pulling data with talking with our kids, the middle school students. It was something we talked about last week of wondering, or not last week, sorry, last month, of wondering why we had the increase of students with the score of our building is clean or up to date. And I asked them 2 questions, one about why there was an increase on it, and 70.8% of the 130 students that responded said it was due to pictures that we put out on our weekly assemblies of showing different places of the school and how it's clean and talking about it. The next highest indicator was only 3.8% of the students of the 130 said that was due to them coming in for Lippy in October. So it wasn't necessarily the in-building kids, but it was kids seeing online pictures of it. And of the 130 students that responded on a 1 to 5 scale, if our building is clean, doing the math, we scored at a 4.05 today. So I kind of felt like that was pretty good. Nice to be in the 4s. And so it was a nice pulse survey of about 130 of our middle school students. So not all of them by any means, but a nice sampling.
Great job measuring that too, Greg. And so that's Estacada middle school kids giving us feedback and us making adjustments based on that. So great job.
And the pictures work. That's great.
I have a win.
Okay.
I'd like to share the rounding. At the beginning of September, Superintendent Carpenter gave us the opportunity to do rounding with parents. And since that time, I've rounded with 71 parents. And about 93% of those parents have been so grateful that someone has reached out to them and that they've been able to give their opinion. And just sometimes they just wanted to talk, but they were grateful that their kids had advocates for them, and that the reopening is happening. And this has also given us an opportunity in the tech department to see if they're struggling with their Chromebooks or their iPads, and if they need internet connection or hotspots. And it's been a great success and a great experience for me to be able to talk with these parents. And I think that this is something that the district can really be proud of, that Ryan asked us to do this.
Good job, Debbie. That's awesome. That is
A
awesome.
great win, Debbie, and I appreciate you trying to engage our families and collect our voice so that we can make adjustments to serve our families. That's just fantastic work, and thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
Okay, lots of good wins there, and over 30 days. So I expect to have us to have more and more wins each time we go through. So thank you. Next on the agenda, in terms of our pillar progress of barriers, and Andy Mott was going to report out on some communication barriers for EHS, but I will stand in for him for this one. But you know, one of the barriers, and this is from rounding with Principal Hudson as well with Andy Mott, our athletic director, is communicating our progress based off the projects that the Estacada High School students have voiced that they wanted to have done in terms of up-to-date buildings and facilities, whether it was new restroom partitions or new ceiling tile, new flooring in certain areas, painting in certain areas. And so one of the barriers is just communicating that progress and connecting those students who are not on campus. And so Principal Hudson and I have talked about different tactics to be able to do, similar to the video that I referenced that operations is doing. Can we have some kind of interactive slide deck, or, you know, progress meter on, hey, we've completed 6 out of the 10 projects and we're progressing on, you know, these certain areas, and right now we're red because of this, for example, the parking lot. So we're looking at making some slight tweaks and adjustments going into the end of the 45-day mark and going into the new 45 days, so that we can connect those students. Because even if we go full hybrid K-12, we will still have some students who are in comprehensive distance learning, and that we still want to make sure they are engaged in this pillar and that they have a voice and feel like their building and is up to date and clean and safe. So that's a barrier that we're working through. John, would you mind talking about one of the barriers that we're having with human resources and the new staffing agency that we just contracted with?
The biggest barrier is they don't support custodial, and that's kind of one of our needs that we have. I'm confident with our team and our team's ability to get the job done, but currently we have one sub who's very well trained and works really hard, but is only available Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So that's kind of been our barrier. We've moved night shift into day shift because we have a couple, a full-time person that's been out long term, and just trying to kind of fill those needs has been a little difficult.
John, you're a little faint. I'm not sure if you need to go a little closer to your microphone. Could you also speak about you mentioned that we're working on staffing. You mentioned that we are going to make some adjustments to our morning custodial department and our facilities a little bit until we can hire a temporary position.
Yeah, so you know, it was a hard decision, but I've today made the decision to move Joel from maintenance into Rivermill full-time day custodian, so that we could fulfill that need for one, but also as we're bringing in more students, our challenge is trying to fill. You know, we currently have 2 people out. One person's out for 2 weeks, and another custodian's been out for months. So just trying to make sure we're still supporting the building's needs, and more importantly to me, students' needs. We want to just make sure that I refuse to be the reason we're not open. So we're going to do whatever we can to stay open. But that's been the challenge. So we're moving Joel from maintenance into Rivermill Day custodian. I think he's a great fit. He's well trained and very versatile, so that we can get Adam, who's been great at Rivermill. Jen's going to miss him dearly, but we need to get Adam back at night to the high school so we can make sure we're providing a clean, safe environment for all of our staff and students.
Great.
So it's been a challenge. It's been really hard, but working with Mike and HR, we've working through it, and I'm still fully confident in the district's ability and everyone in my staff's ability to fulfill our need, but it has been a struggle.
Good, thank you. And John, I would just recommend that we increase our rounding frequency with Joel to make sure that he has everything he needs to be successful in his new role and responsibility, and that we're able to support his needs as he moves into a new thing for us too. But great, thank you for communicating that.
One other little barrier, again, we're going to be talking about this at our 45-day huddle, is our student services department. That, you know, we're after working with that leader, Jason Hobson, our director of student services, you know, connecting his work and the work that they do in that department to up-to-date buildings and facilities, and My School is Clean, was a challenge. And we worked together through rounding and different opportunities to figure out how we can connect it. And I think we have some good ideas going into the new 45-day, and I'll give you kind of a glimpse of what that could be. And that we're looking at, you know, the student services departments supports students identified with special needs, as well as other accommodations that may need to be happening for our students to come on campus. And we often collaborate between our two departments, whether it's facilities or operations, with Jason and his department, to make sure that we have up-to-date facilities that are safe, accommodations implemented. So we're going to be looking at those projects as an indicator and a progress measure, and refocusing his strategic action. And so that does tie in, you know, directly and indirectly into this pillar. So we're more to come on that. I expect to have some data on that going into next month's meeting, based off some historical stuff, projects we've done, as well as some new projects that we're doing with some findings as well.
Great.
Any other barriers that the group would like to communicate that they're experiencing or experiencing with amongst their teams?
Hey, Mike, one data point that you've been following that I'd like to just, I'd like to know some more information on is, it's been a barrier throughout this pandemic and our comprehensive distance learning to make sure that all students had access to internet. Our school district has provided through technology either hotspots or we've literally paid the bill to hook up internet in some of our economically disadvantaged families. I was wondering if you could share with me the academic achievement of those students so that we can look at A, to make sure that our supports are serving their needs, but B, also kind of analyzing the return on investment and what we're investing in making sure these families do have the internet.
Yes, I'm happy to. Let me share my screen real quick here.
This is pretty impressive.
Okay, what you see here, and this is part of a presentation the district is participating in with the student education, but what we did is, again, we have a cross-department collaboration with our curriculum and instruction and our principals with collecting essential learning standards information. And why we're collaborating, obviously, is to be able to collect this data and to see it. But you can see at the bottom, we started tracking how many students and families we're supporting with internet services, whether that's connectivity to Reliance or the provider and or a hotspot like Superintendent Carpenter had mentioned. So on the left-hand side, if you see students connected to the internet by the district, whether that's a hotspot or just connected in general, and their ESL, which is their Essential Learning Standard score by the end of the semester one. We have a total of 3,235 standards that are in the cumulative between these students of 176. 57% are recording a 3 or a 4, which is a passing grade. And correct me if I'm wrong, Superintendent Carpenter, on that, all that stuff there. 24%, so about 779 standards are in that 2 range, basically. So they're emerging, they're moving the right direction. And 18% or 598 of the standards are right now are at a 1. So working on making sure that we try to get them above that 1 is a focus. What's pretty interesting is that we took that data and we pared it down even a little bit more. And we said, okay, of that 176 students, how many are served by a student services department and how many of them they got connected and what are their scores? So we took that, we have 33 students that are served by student services. And then they have a total of 577 standards. 254 or 44% recorded 3 or 4. 196 or 34% are at a 2. And then 127 or 22% are at a 1. Again, this is great data, as mentioned, to just give us where we're at and how we're connecting these students and to make tweaks and to make adjustments on, why are these students in the red? Is it other things, other contributing factors? So any questions on that data?
No, thank you for sharing that. Again, just for folks watching, the 1,858, that's total essential learning standards across the board. So what I'm seeing then, Mike, correct me if I'm wrong, our school district has connected 176 families to the internet throughout this pandemic and distance learning. And we've connected 33 students who are being served by special education. And it looks like, again, we're providing this resource and the connection to our schools. And because of that, they have passed as a collective 57% of their essential learning standards halfway through the year. So halfway through the year, and we're more than halfway accomplished in our essential learning standards is a great indication of the work there. So thank you for tracking that, and thank you for keeping an eye on their academic progress too. Well done.
So otherwise, all those students would
Not
even be here.
They would not even be here.
Might be something we're sharing this month.
Yes,
If it's on your list or Mike's list or somebody's.
it should be his.
Yeah.
It'll be on our list as and I'll work with Director Sullivan to make sure he has that information as it applies to student success as well. So
Yeah, nice work. That's great.
very exciting. And again, we're in line and we're on the right track. So, all right. So moving into more data, we love data and going into improvement in action. Greg, you had mentioned your report. So I don't know if you have anything else to share on your analysis of the middle school data, but you mentioned that in your wins. But anything else to share on that one?
No, not really. I mean, it would be nice, to have the full 413 students on it. Like everything, to have more solid data and where it is, but it's nice that we're moving in the right direction. It's nice to see that kids and students are viewing that our school is clean, because we know there's a ton of effort going into it right now. And if you walk through one of our 3 lunches, you can tell it's clean. It sure smells clean. But, it's nice to see that everyone's noticing it. And I know that there's a ton of work being put into it, and we're very appreciative of it. Because like John echoed, no one wants to be the reason why we're not open and not having kids out here. And so it's great to see them. We're getting more back every day at the middle school, and it's just an exciting time.
Great. Yeah, and you have more kids coming. You had 117, 120 students on campus?
Yeah, we had 122 today. And it was great. It was really fun.
Did you pick up any information from those 120 that came? I don't know how many today was their first day. I mean, for me personally, I know it was the first day in our household, but were all 120 of those first day students, or was that total with the kids that were already there?
So that 130 that participated could have been a mixture, because it was during life class before the students transitioned in at 10 a.m. So the interesting thing with it would to run this survey again on Wednesday or Thursday when it's the other kids that are transitioning in, and see if it's the same kids or a different set that answers.
I would imagine that first impression would be a pretty good one. Like you said,
Yeah.
Lunch smelled clean. That actually, I know what you're saying, and that a kid's going to remember that too. That probably smelled like an operating room. It was so clean.
Yeah.
You might get some good data there.
Yeah. As a former wrestling coach, it reminded me of walking into a room before practice.
Thank you, Greg. Julie, you had a quick report for us on your efforts and your department's efforts in cleaning.
Yeah, to support the up-to-date building and facilities pillar, particularly amongst the current pandemic, Nutrition Services created an enhanced cleaning protocol in each kitchen area. So typically the nutrition staff is required to continually sanitize kitchen cooking and cleaning and food prep surfaces throughout their shifts. But our enhanced protocol addresses additional common touch points, such as light switches and door handles, faucets, and more. And the kitchen staff is now daily sanitizing well over 50 additional common touch points, which allows our custodial crews more time to address common touch points in other areas of the schools. So with the recent startup of in-person learning, we've trained and implemented our new sanitation protocols at 3 of our 4 kitchens, with EMS set to be trained this week. And of the 3 kitchens currently keeping logs, 100% of daily cleaning of all common touch points has been achieved since December 14th, when the new protocols began. So we're really proud that we're able to go ahead and support the district with the clean facilities and helping out maintenance and custodial.
Great data. I appreciate that. I love the data. Wonderful. Thank you. Okay, per a request from Director Berman, last month we mentioned the capital improvement. So I wanted in projects along with some district expenditures. So I'm going to share that with the group and those who are watching. 1 second here. Okay. So I'm going to go through this a little bit to make sure it's kind of clear and how we track it. This is a modified Gantt chart, if you will, very simplistic Gantt chart. Director Berman would probably say, no, that's not. But it's my internal tracking of how we look at capital projects in the district. And this is just for this fiscal year. And so what we have on the left is the project or the title or scope of work, how many days we expect. Oh, I'm sorry, I got get over here. The start date, the completion date, and then the duration of how many. That's just the in between of those two. And then we track it. And I kind of hold myself accountable so that we can make sure that we are keeping our contractors in line. So the timeline tracker just keeps ticking down. And if it gets to that below 7, it turns a color, and it just, you can see we have a couple that were below or past the 0-day mark, which is, in my opinion, an area that we can improve on. A lot that we've met within our mark and somewhat well exceeding the completion date. But you can see right now we currently have one project that we're still in process, which is the ionization. And it's not that piece of it, it's that digital direct control upgrade that we're still working through. That is a few days behind schedule because of the product delivery. But again, we can able to track this data and then determine how we can adjust and make some pivots on working with our contractors to keep timelines, which is very important. Estimated cost, when that comes in on the bid or the procurement process. And so we put that in there once we elect or we select the vendor. And then any change orders that come in, whether it's a credit to the agent or to the district or another additional cost to the district, and then giving us an actual cost at the end on column J. And then a simple just, did this get completed or not? At the bottom, you can see, since we started tracking this, about when I started this position with the Estacada School District, we have 21 total projects. And you can see the actual costs compared to the estimated costs, which is a difference about $27,000. And then fiscal year 2021, we have 8 projects in place, roughly estimated 600,000. Actual cost $616,000 with the difference of $12,000. And so we use this. This gets communicated out to all of our district leadership team when we go through procurement and we select a vendor, and that's through a combination of different measures or methods with our business manager and with Superintendent Carpenter. Then we shoot this out to all of our district leaders so they can cascade the information out to our employee and our workforce, and to give that why, what, how, and why we are doing this and how we're going to do it, how it applies to whether it's an improvement, an adjustment, or infrastructure change to our district.
Thanks, Mike. That's great. Can you scroll back down for a minute?
Yes.
2021 projects. So that's a total number on contract is 8?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So what I'm trying to accomplish here is it even got brought up to me by another board member in a meeting recently, which would indicate to me that there's more people out there that want to know. And they'd asked about trying to understand the selection process, which is as easy as doing some policy work with the board members or whoever wants to know. But the why is the big one. And is there some version of this that can come out and be easy to get to for me, use, anyone who wants to see what we're doing here at the district, and have a good explanation of the why we're doing it. You've got a good tracker here. If you scroll back up, it shows what we're doing, the duration, the cost, but I don't see the why completely.
Okay.
What are we trying to accomplish? What's that do to the strategic plan? Was it, is it improving our cleanliness score? Is it because we have a contract with the city and we have to do it? Is it because it's a security issue? So I'm just kind of freestyling here, but some piece about why we're doing these would be helpful, and a way to make it more public. I was going to bring that up in the next 30 days, but since we're looking at it, that's just a little bit of feedback, but it's great to see you already had something. So thanks for sharing that.
I really appreciate that idea and feedback there. And yes, we can easily do that. We have a capital improvement request system. So if any leader would like to add a room or do concrete or whatever, anything under the sun, they have to submit a request, and it does have that specific question: how does this apply to the strategic action? And so that's where they would narrate or have a narrative, whether it's up-to-date buildings and facilities, inclusive practices. It could be a combination of multiple pillars in our strategic plan. So we can simply add that narrative or add some language in this document. And then to your question, how do we publicize it or keep it more readily available for you or any other stakeholder? I do have some ideas on that, and I would like to tweak it a little bit and then make sure get it on your eyes and see what you think. Okay.
That sounds great. We'll call that the next 30 days piece of feedback. And it might also help in the financial pillar with transparency and such.
Yeah, for sure.
So maybe they're already doing it over there, but maybe not.
No, we're not.
And when you're talking about the why, I'm sure every once in a while you get a grant or something that's a different color of money that helps us out, that doesn't come out of a budget we have to save up for. So any wins like that where someone wrote a grant and we were successful would be helpful.
That's a good point. I know Julie, specifically our nutrition services department, usually often gets grants for equipment and things like that. And we haven't been tracking that too thoroughly. So I love that idea. Thank you. Okay, so we can add a funding source, if you will, whether it's a district or a grant or even if it's coming from our CARES Act, if anything else. So I love that. That's great. Vendor contracts. This, I think, needs to take some time to kind of go through, and we don't need to spend the entire time here. We only have about 20 minutes, but again, another, what current vendors that we have in place that we're working with, their services they provide, they're typically an annual contract or just an annual service that we renew, and our costs to date. And so there's a slew of information, and thank you to Julie and Debbie McKay on adding all this information over the last month or so that we have in here. And so I will share this with the committee. Director Berman has access. I believe John has access still, and Debbie. But Greg and Julie, I'm not too sure if you have direct access. I'd like you to take a look. I think one of the next 30 days, whether it's this next 30 days or coming up, I think we need to look at, where are we spending our money, and is there opportunities to condense or, look at that as a trend. Maybe we get some historical data from the last, 2 or 3 years. If we look at City of Estacada, for example, and the permitting costs, what does that look like? Is it increasing? Do we need to be more mindful of these areas as we get into budget season? right now, and as we continuously work with our business department to make sure we have transparent expenditures. And then current contracts, this is what we have currently in place right now, or RFPs that are out. And looking at, with our Apex, so some building or repairs that are current. We've had some stormwater engineering work at our district transportation operations department, some concrete work. NCC is the contractor doing the ionization, and it does a lot of our boiler and HVAC repairs along with our DDC. And so you can see they're not a whole bunch are in here, and some of these, so they have sunset, if you will, and or no longer in play. But these are the most recent and fresh vendors that we've worked with that are related to the capital improvement or in infrastructure investment projects. Video Connections is our Zoom room technology that we've contracted with since July, and have spent quite a bit of money there. So right now we are in the procurement process of looking at generators for all of our schools to support backup power to our main servers as well as our coolers. So when we have a power outage, we have a total blackout, not so much a brownout, but a blackout, we're able to maintain phone lines, obviously, because that runs through the internet, but internet connectivity for our staff, power and heat and light, and as well as keep our coolers running so we do not waste food, which can be an expense as we learn every time we have a long duration of power outages, and go from there. So,
Mike, when it comes time, there's a right way to do that process with generators, especially if you're gonna cherry pick emergency circuits and such. You don't start with a contractor, you start with the right supplier to design it and then get to a contractor. But if you need any help or background on that, I've done quite a few of those for big buildings and facilities. So if you want to reach out on the side, let me know.
Thank you. I'll work with Mr. Carpenter on that too as well. Okay.
Thank you. And Mike, one other thing, again, per Director Berman's request, in one of the other tabs, it might be nice, like as I look at the video connections, TVs, cameras, and cables at the end, $277,000, that's money invested into our classrooms to support hybrid learning, but that's also coming from ESSER funds, not from our general funds. And so it might be important to just kind of have that other tab to say where these fundings are coming from.
Yeah, I like that idea a lot. So we can easily do that and make sure it's easy to see and read. Okay?
Great.
Okay, so I think that this document is definitely something to keep looking at. We can expand it and make it better, obviously, and improve on it each time, but it is a living document. So we put in data in there all the time, and Greg and Julie, I'll make sure you have access to that, okay? John, you want to talk a little about, in terms of improvement in action, our cleaning scores for the district?
Oh, well, kind of caught me off guard on that, but we do have quite an increase in our cleaning score. Are you referring to the data that we share or the cleaning score in general?
Talk about the data that we share, and our average right now is a 4.2.
Yeah.
So, but you can talk about our daily reports that go out. Do you ever get feedback on that?
I have not gotten feedback necessarily. I have gotten emails from very few. I think I can think of 3 offhand over the past probably 3 months of staff who have questioned the data that we're sharing. And it's been a great opportunity to kind of meet with them and do some rounding and kind of find out why they feel the way they do. But I can say that we're probably the only department that openly shares all of our data. So I'm sure you guys have received our cleaning scores, our nightly checklists that we share with you guys. So I feel that we're pretty open with what we're doing, and we're kind of letting everyone know that we're here, doing our job. And I think that's our goal. I haven't gotten really a whole lot of feedback, but to me, no news is good news.
Thank you, John. Going into our elementary schools, they did another pulse survey of our 2 to 5. So last month we had them pulse survey their K1 groups as they were coming into our schools. We asked our principals to do another quick pulse survey for our 2 to 5 groups since they've been back for a little bit longer. Again, asking the same question along with a few other questions on returning to school, but do they feel their school is clean? River Mill recorded a 4.95 mean score, and CRE recorded a 4.92 mean score on that survey. So again, we're just moving in the right direction. What we're doing to move the needle at the elementary is working, and I believe it's due to our efforts in cleaning, our efforts in communicating. Our principals and leadership team put it in their weekly communication tools. Similar to what Greg in the middle school does. They have pictures out there highlighting cleanliness. There are different tactics to just making sure they're rounding with parents, rounding with students, or if they can, with students, and gaining some information on how we can continuously improve. So again, another way that our improvement in action is working.
Mike, I'm sorry, did you say that was a student survey?
Yeah, it was it goes out to our students, but our parents assist since the age group, but 2 to 5 grades. And then, so, yeah.
That's great. And I wanted to also, I didn't realize the elementaries are doing it too. That's awesome. But I wanted to thank Greg and Ben for, taking the time to take the pictures and really having the confidence in our custodial staff and really pushing that positive vibe. But I didn't realize the elementaries are doing it too. That's awesome.
Okay, going into the final 13 minutes here, the next 30 days. We talked about a number of barriers. We talked about some adjustments. One of that I heard is that adjustments or modifications to the capital improvement tracking report. Last month, we had talked about looking at evaluating our cleaning score, or how that evaluation process works, and looking more deeper into that. We also talked about how we can bridge some gaps with athletics and student services, which we're on the same, I think we're in the right direction with student services, but now that we have more athletics coming out, how can we start engaging those athletes or student athletes into this work that we're doing, which I think can be something that more and more we can address over the next 30 days. And I know that Andy Mott is not here, but I'm sure he'd be in line and be willing to help support that effort. Out of the 1, 2, 3, 4 of those next 30-day marks, outside of the capital one, because that can get done pretty easily, what do you think the group would like to focus on? Maybe selecting 2 of them.
If I get to pick, I'd like to see the tracker with the initial adjustments made, if I could pick one of them. Okay. And then the cleaning evaluation, I know it's kind of generic. The elementary schools look like they're doing quite well. But now that we're getting some middle schoolers, maybe some high schoolers back, maybe we should start looking over there for some data.
Okay.
But that's just me. What do you guys think?
I agree 100% with that. I also want to make sure that we keep it simple. I think I think improving that spreadsheet that you're talking about, like you had mentioned, the data that you're presenting right now in the last 30 days is telling us that what we're doing as an organization and what our departments are doing in terms of communication is working. And so I would say in the next 30 days, let's keep doing those actions, those specific things that we know are working for us right now. This isn't the time to invent something new or to stop doing things that we know are working. And so I would just encourage you in the next 30 days to keep looking at the same data that you've looked at in the last 30 days to continue to monitor those specific actions and what we're doing.
Great. Well, that's it for the pillar leader section of this agenda, and thank you all for your participation in that. That was great.
Thanks, Mike. So section F, do we have any public comment or questions anywhere?
Not for today's meeting.
Anything good of the order?
We're working on a robust ticketing system for our athletics so that we can be a best-in-class athletic event opportunity in graduation. So more to come on that. Very excited about that.
Mike, next meeting, same as usual, or is that for you, Debbie?
Yeah, same as usual.
It'll be the same.
Okay.
Same time, same place, okay?
All right, thanks, everybody. Meeting's adjourned. See you later.